Episode of Valuation, what I call the Starbucks effect, which we'll get into that in just a second, and other important conversations that you guys need to be having with sellers, right? So many times the difference between selling a property and not selling a property is having the valuation dialed in, and more importantly, being able to articulate that to a potential seller, right? You can have the best property on the best block, in the best condition, but if it's not priced properly, it's not going to sell. Make sense, guys? All right. By the way, as you beautiful people are hopping on, put your cameras on. Let's see some of your smiling faces. Because here's the thing, folks, right? We have so many distractions throughout the day, right? If you're going to be here, because I guarantee you're going to learn something today that you'll be able to implement tomorrow and potentially make money from, right? That you guys are coming here and spending time out of your busy workday. Let's make sure that we're concentrating fully, because we're going to be covering some very, very implementable things today, right? Not the least of which is what I call the Starbucks effect, right? And for those of you who've never heard me do this presentation, I think you're going to find something very, very insightful about it. So as you're hopping on, let's get those cameras on. Ethan, what's up, dude? Good to see you. How's everything on your side, buddy? I see we have Violet. I see we have Adnan. I see we have Jay, Carlos, Alicia, Gary. What's going on, folks? Let's make sure you have your pen and paper handy. And I'm going to ask for two things. Number one, I already asked for, is make sure you guys are focused and ready to take notes and concentrate. And the next thing is, okay, the more you engage in the information, the more it gets stored in different parts of your brain. So if I tell you, like, raise your hand, if I tell you to type in the chat, right? I'm not just playing a big game, as Simon says. What I'm trying to do is get you guys to assimilate with the information so you can understand, and more importantly, be able to recall it and put it into your business, right? How many of you have a flood, and I mean an absolute flood of information coming at you all day, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I see like half the hands going up. Exactly. What it comes down to, folks, it's not about information. It's about the implementation of it, okay? Information is cheap. You can go on YouTube and watch years and years and years of videos, but it isn't until you take and you implement the information. So I'm going to give you guys actionable steps and actual conversations you can have with a seller so that you can start implementing these steps today. For those of you that have listings, you can start implementing these tomorrow to the listings that you already have. If like maybe the listing's sitting still and it's a little bit stale, I'm going to give you conversations you can have with sellers so you can start moving the needle, because what fixes absolutely everything? In fact, guys, do me a favor, type in the chat, what is the one thing that if you adjusted it with your listing would fix absolutely everything? Take a guess. Take a guess. I want to see just one word. It's a 5-letter word. Let's see what you guys are coming up with. Jamie, Sonia, Thomas, Ethan, come on. I see your fingers, Ethan. Let's see you get those typing. What do you think it is? Out of curiosity. Or what's the one thing? All right, you heard me say it before. Why is underwriting important? Boom. Thomas is with me. Ethan's with me. Yes, exactly, guys. Price. You can have a building next to a nuclear waste site, right? And for the right buyer at the right price, that building's going to make sense. Who knows, right? But the point is, what we want for everybody to understand is, if you have listings that are sitting on the market, okay, as long as they're exposed properly and if the price is not dialed in, it's not going to sell. Perfect example. You guys hear me talk about this all the time. If I told you, okay, here's a $20 bill, go to the mall and bring me back 20 singles. Do you think you'd be able to bring me back 20 singles? Type yes or no in the chat right now. Okay. Do you think you'd be able to do that? If I gave you a $20 bill, how hard would it be for you to bring me back 20 singles? Pretty simple. Why? Because a $20 bill is worth $20. Okay. And if I took that same $20 bill and said, Giselle, do me a favor, bring me back 19 singles. Giselle, do you think you could do that? Type yes or no in the chat, right? Okay. Mehul, Jay, do you think you'd be able to do that? If I gave you a $20 bill, if you could bring me back 19 singles? Of course, right? Stands to reason. Now let's take it one step further. If I gave you a $20 bill and asked you to bring me back 23 singles, do you think you'd be able to do that? You think you can bring me back 23? The short answer is, folks, I'd be waiting a long time. Jay says, nah, exactly, Jay. And that's the point, folks. Why? It's only $3 overpriced. But guess what? When you know the value of something, you know what a buyer is not willing to spend on it. Make sense, folks? So some people say, oh, it's only a little bit overpriced. It doesn't matter. Folks, value is in the eye of the beholder, okay? So the value is in the eye of the investor, just like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So remember, an investor is not going to spend extra money on something just because the owner thinks it's pretty or so on and so forth. Make sense, folks? Okay, very, very important. So when you think about it, folks, you have to have your valuation dialed in or else you're not going to get buyers. For those of you that have stale listings that haven't done anything and just been sitting on the market, I guarantee you, as long as it's exposed properly, means it's on the proper marketing channels, there's a very, very good chance that the price is not dialed in. Make sense? Give me a yes or no, guys. Capital Y, capital E, capital S, if that makes sense, folks. Okay. Okay. Laura's with me. Violet's with me. Okay, guys. So what we're going to be talking about today is what we call the Facebook, the title of today's Facebook challenge, right, is going to be what we call the Starbucks effect. So what the purpose behind this, folks, is to show you what the conversations you need to be having with sellers in order to entice them, to show them not only how to derive more value out of their properties, but how to move properties that have not been selling. Okay, so do me a favor, folks. Everybody type a 1 in the chat if you guys drink coffee, not the one you make at home, but something that you drink during the day outside of your house, right? So I call it the Starbucks effect because a lot of people are Starbucks drinkers. So who do we got? Oh, Adnan's with me. Okay, Giselle. Okay, now what do you guys spend on a daily basis on, let's say, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever you like to go? All right. So we got Jay says $5 a day. Okay, cool. All right. Now, who else? Larry, Latasha, Linda, Mehul. Okay. Giselle says $1. Okay, cool. All right. Love it. All right. 5, 2.76. Love it. That's an exact number, Thomas. Good stuff. All right. Okay. We're getting that. All right. So what are we seeing? Okay. $4. Okay, cool. Good. All right. So what we're going to be going into, folks, is we're going into an underwriting example. And I want to show you now, remember what we put here, okay? We have $4, we have $5, we have $3, you know? What I want to go into is a very, very simple conversation so you can show how to extract the most amount of value out of a property. So let me go ahead and share my screen. What we have here, this is a sample of our underwriting sheet. This is a sample that the students that we have where we all go through to value properties. It's very, very simple. It's very, very streamlined. Anyone that tells you underwriting is difficult either wants you to refer property to them because they don't want to teach you, or 2, doesn't know how to do it properly. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can determine the value of a property. And I'm going to show you how exactly today. And if you guys stay to the end, I'm going to ask you to type in a certain hashtag and I'll send you a free copy of this. Sound like a plan? Okay. So folks, this is for a 6-unit apartment building. Okay. Now do me a favor, folks. And I'm going to show you how to fill this out like in real time as we speak. This is a real live underwriting going on in progress. Okay. So do me a favor and type in what a 1-bedroom apartment in your city and state costs. So just go ahead and type that in the chat real quick. I'm going to fill this out 1, 2, 3 right in front of you guys. All right. So that way you can see this is not black magic. This is not, some sort of wizard spell. This is just multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Okay. So we got 1,000, we got 2,600, we got 2,100. Cool. Okay. Let's do this. So let's type in, I saw the first one I saw was 1,000. Okay. Boom. So you can type in 1,000. Now, I saw Latasha said 1,500. So let's go ahead and fill out here. See, all I'm doing, folks, you just type it in at the top where we have the rental roll section. Okay. Very, very straightforward. Linda says 2,000. Okay. Go to the next line, 2,000. You hit the enter button. Boom. Okay. Now, folks, do me a favor. And we're going to go to the 2-bedroom lines. Okay. Now, what does a 2-bedroom apartment cost in your city and state? Go ahead and type that in. Let's see what we got. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Okay. Ethan says 1,400. Okay, cool. We're going to put in 1,400. All right. Thomas says 1,350. Cool. And then one more. Let's do, Giselle says 2,800. Awesome. Cool. All right, folks, what we're going to do here, what you'll see here, right, is we're adding up all the rents. What does that mean? All you're doing is you're summing the rents, and that's $10,050 a month, and you're multiplying by 12. Okay. This number here gets inputted into the spreadsheet down below here. You see that? 120,600. Type a yes or no in the chat if you see that. Okay. Very, very straightforward. Okay. Now that we have established that's what you call your gross rents. Now we're just going to go with the fact that this building is full, vacancies, that's another conversation for another day. Okay. But what I want to show you here, okay, now that we've inputted the rents, Now we have to talk about what the rents mean and how to look at them. Okay. So remember, folks, if this building had vacancy, that number would be inputted on this line right here. Okay. So because remember, folks, now write this down. It's very, very important because a lot of buyers, okay, that don't know what they're looking at. Okay. And they'll say, well, the building has a vacancy. It's got 20% vacancy. So I need to lower the NOI by 20%. That's absolutely incorrect and completely erroneously. Is it completely erroneous? And it only is the buyer's only mentioning it because it benefits the buyer. Okay, just write this down, folks. Just because a unit doesn't have cash flow doesn't mean it doesn't have value. Okay, if Buckingham Palace was empty, would that mean it has zero value? No, it just doesn't mean, it means it just doesn't have an occupant, so there's no cash flow coming from it. Is that making sense, guys? Type a 1 in the chat if this makes sense. Giselle said, are these rents, market rents, not what the units are renting for? Okay, great question, Giselle. We're just going to assume that what the units are renting for are market rents, right? The reason why I have that fill in there, it's because it is entirely possible that you underwrite a property and the rents that are in place are actually under market, especially in the last couple of years. But for today's example, we're going to assume that market rents are the in-place rents. With me on that one. But when we talk about vacancy, that where it says available space at market rent, that's it takes an average of all the rents and then adds in a factor for vacant spaces, because vacant spaces, just because they don't have cash flow doesn't mean they have value. That's a major like rookie underwriting mistake, and or it just happens to benefit the buyers. They're like, oh, well, you got 5 units and one of them's empty. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to reduce my asking price by 20%. No, because in a week you can get a tenant in there and then it's automatically fully stabilized. Okay, makes sense? Okay, cool. So next up, folks, what I want you to understand is that there are sometimes let's just take a multifamily property. There are other sources of income. Can anybody tell me in a multifamily property, outside of rents, what is another source of income that you can have for a property? So what do you got? What do you think? Okay, I see parking. I see laundry. Love it. Good way to go, Linda. Okay, yep. Pet rents. Yep. Laundry. Okay, good. Anything. It could be laundry. It could be vending machines. Anything that adds to the rents, I should say, to the income, but is not in the form of base rent, that's considered additional income. If it had a big parking lot and it was near a stadium and they rented the parking lot out for people to park in, that's also okay. Or if you only get one allotted parking space and the person has a big family and they want to rent additional parking spaces, that's another form. Okay, but the point is, folks, not every dime that goes into the income is necessarily base rent. So what I want to show you folks here is you have your potential gross rent plus your other income, and that you add that up to your potential gross potential income. Okay, now remember this, folks. Okay, very common sense. No property is 100% full 100% of the time. Okay, makes sense. So you always have to, and I don't care if the property is 100% full now, but the conversation you need to have with the seller is, Mr. Seller, because every seller is going to want to say, oh, no, the building is full, so we need to have, we can't take out, vacancy and collections factor. I'm 100% collected and 100% full. You say, well, yes, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, just because you enjoy this NOI does not mean that the next person will enjoy it necessarily. So we always have to assess a certain vacancy and collections factor. Why? Because no building is full 100% of the time. And think back to COVID, multifamily, right? In California, it was legally allowed for landlords not to charge people rent, or for tenants not to have to pay rent for many, many months, right? So things can come up. You might have people moving out. Maybe your painter takes too long to get the unit ready in between. There's always going to be a little bit of downtime with a long enough time horizon, if that makes sense. Okay, folks? So remember, no units 100% full 100% of the time, so we have to assess a vacancy factor. So how do we do that? So in better markets, in A-class markets, right, you're going to have lower vacancy and collection factors. And in more, maybe B and C and D-class markets, you're going to tend to have higher vacancy and collection factors. So what we do is, and just so for those of you following along that will be filling these out, okay, you only have to change the number in the gray shaded boxes. So let's just put in here a 5%. a vacancy factor. If you notice here, it adjusted here for the vacancy and collections, and it subtracted that from here so that you have 108.5 minus $5,425, and it leaves you with the EGI of 103,075. You guys with me so far? Okay, cool. Now the taxes are what the taxes are. Right, taxes are, you can look them up on the property appraiser's website for your particular county or municipality. One thing to remember, the taxes contribute the largest part of the operating expenses. So it's very important that you understand if the person has a low, if they've owned it for a long time and they have a low kind of appraisal rate, you have to be mindful that, if they've owned a building for 20 or 25 or 30 years, the next person that buys it, they might get a step up in basis, and it might translate to a much higher rental. Real estate taxes. Okay, so just be very mindful of that. But you can look up the current taxes on real estate on the real estate or property appraiser's website. Okay. Now, insurance, very important to understand. You have to have it here in Florida or in other parts of the country that have, tornadoes or have hurricanes or have any sort of inclement weather. There's going to be a premium on windstorm. Okay, very important to understand. So this is a question you need to understand. In fact, guys, do me a favor. Type in the chat. Give me a number between, let's say, 2,000 and 3,200 for what the insurance is, because I want to show you how to increase or how to input the information here in the gray boxes. Right. Remember, folks, for this particular sheet, you only input into the gray boxes. Why? Because all the formulas are baked in, and until you're really good at like flying by the seat of your pants, this is kind of like training wheels so that you understand the process. Okay. So Ethan said 3,200 if you're lucky. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's go ahead and put that in 3,200. Yes, but here in Florida, yeah, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get windstorm insurance for $3,200. You might get just basic, but windstorm insurance is going to be significantly higher. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Now, maintenance and repairs, folks, you have to underwrite. No building is going to stay 100% in good repair all the time. And a tenant moves out. You need to paint the unit. You might need a new stove. You might need these things. So it's important for you to budget for that. But let's keep that number relatively small. Guys, do me a favor. And JB, I'll go ahead and you guys will be able to get a link to the sheet at the end of today's exercise. Okay, but type in a number between 4,000 and 6,000, and we're going to input that for the repairs and maintenance. If you think about it, a 6-unit building, maybe you do $1,000 of repairs a year. You might have a tenant that stays there for 3 years, and you never paint the unit, and you never have to change the washer and dryer. But you might have a unit that turns over, every year. So that you kind of got to balance it out. So type in the chat, guys. Give me a number between 4,000 and 6,000, and we're just going to assess that as what they have for basic maintenance here. All right. So you got 4,000. Thank you, JB. Appreciate it, buddy. Okay, 4,000. All right. So as you can see, we have a management fee, right? Remember, just because Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller manages the property themselves. This is a small 6-unit property. They could probably do it themselves pretty easily, but maybe the buyer is an out-of-state buyer and they just want to buy this property. They love the area. They want to have a tax write-off or whatever, and they want to put a management company in place. Remember, just because the seller is enjoying this NOI doesn't mean the buyer is going to, and it's very important, for sellers to understand the next person will likely not be able to make the same amount of money as they are enjoying from the property. Why? Because they bought it and they have a lower basis and so forth. Okay. But what I want to show you folks is when you type the number into this percentage here, okay, it's going to adjust this number here. Okay. So let's just say, for argument's sake, the local property management company that the buyer is going to use, they charge an 8% fee. Make sense, guys? Okay. Very, very straightforward. Giselle says, can this sheet be used for 2 to 4 units? Absolutely, Giselle. Yeah, you just have to just type in unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, and just leave the other ones blank. Just leave zeros. Okay, cool. So let's get down to the nitty gritty, guys. So remember, folks, at the end of the day, all underwriting is money comes in, money goes out. What's left over is called NOI. Okay, so money comes in the form of rents, money goes out in the form of operating expenses. Now there's 2 words that describe operating expenses. One is recurring, okay, and the other one is regular. So remember, guys, regular and recurring, those are the 2. Write those down, right? In fact, type those in the chat. I want you guys to remember those, because there are definitely expenses in a property. And when an owner gives you, a rental roll and you're going to go to try to underwrite the value of the property, you need to understand that not every expense that owner has is what's called an operating expense. And if it's not an operating expense, it does not belong on the underwriting when you're figuring the value of the property. You with me on that, guys? Okay, very, very important. So what I want you to know is that you have to be able to determine the difference between a capital expense and an operating expense. Okay, remember, write that, everybody write in the chat right now, write down regular and recurring. Okay, write those two words down. Okay, so let's talk about it. What are some expenses that are regular and recurring every month, every quarter, maybe every week, who knows, right? Write those in the chat. So Alvin, what's a good example of something that's regular and recurring with the operation of buildings, of apartment buildings? Let's talk about that for starters. Okay, what do we got? Okay, Linda says landscaping, 100%, Linda, good one, absolutely. That grass never stops growing, at least down here in Florida, it doesn't. Okay, Violet says maintenance, yep, okay, good. What do we got? We got water, okay, absolutely, yep. All these folks, these are all regular and recurring. Okay, now let's talk about the opposite. Let's talk about capital expenses. What is a capital expense? What is something that does not happen regularly or recurring? Okay, what is something that happens every 15 to 20 years? Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, Alvin says appliances, very, very good. Linda, re-roof entire roof, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about some other things. What about maybe the parking lot, maybe resurfacing the parking lot? There we go, cool, love it. Okay, so just remember, folks, maybe what are the things that heat and cool? Oh, HVAC units, you guys with me? Okay, very, very important to understand. These are not included under operating expenses. They are handled differently, by your accountant. So very important to understand that if the guy says, oh, I just spent $10,000 on a new air conditioning unit, that does not go into the operating expenses because it's not regular or recurring. Okay, very important. So you guys, so what we do is we fill out these boxes accordingly. You can be able to get this data from the landlord. Oh, okay. Now, mind you, the only expenses you're going to type into this sheet when figuring out the landlord's the value of the building as the landlord is currently running it, okay, is whatever the landlord is taking out of his pocket. Remember, the tenants, if the tenants do not have or the tenants have separately metered property or separately metered units like water, gas, whatever it might be, electric, right? That's not coming out of the landlord's pocket. All you care about is what comes out of the landlord's pocket. Make sense, guys? Okay. So let's say the landlord he has a sprinkler system and for $100 a month. Okay, mind you, these are all annual numbers here. Okay, so he's going to spend $1,200. Let's say the landscaper, let's say he charges them, I don't know, $150 a month. So what's that going to be? It's going to be $1,800 a year. Okay, you're going to type that in there. All right. Now, let's say the electric, let's say it costs him $50 a month because he has a couple LED lights in the parking lot and he wants to keep it safe for everybody. So that's $600 a year. Okay, you guys getting it? Are you with me so far? Very important. Okay, CAM stands for common area maintenance. Let's say he has a janitor come through and sweep up the parking lot, pick up cigarette butts. Maybe they have somebody come through and steam clean the carpets once a month, just to keep the place tip top or mop the general areas. Okay, so let's say that's another $100 a month. He comes in once a month and does it for a couple hours. Okay, now the point is, what we want to get into, folks, is we want you guys to understand how small changes can make big increases of value. Okay, very, very important to understand. And that's why tonight, what we talked about was what's called the Starbucks effect. In fact, folks, for those of you that are Starbucks drinkers, okay, and we got a lot of people on here tonight. So let's see, we got 70 people on right now. How many of you type in what you and it's okay. We're in a safe place. No one's going to make fun of you because you love your caramel latte with like 3 pumps of whatever, right? But go ahead and put into the chat how much you guys all spend on Starbucks. Okay, very, very important. I had one of my students, she'll laugh. And we were talking about the other day. She spends $11 a day on Starbucks. Okay, so let's type it in. I said, I know Linda doesn't have any. Good for you. Good. JB says $50 a month. Love it. But for those of you that are Starbucks drinkers, right? I bring it up very, very important. Okay. Giselle says $30 a month. Okay, let's get the caffeine addicts. Let's get to talking about them because I saw $5 a day. That's about a little bit on the low side. I see all about the Cumberland, baby. Yeah, I love that. Cumberland Farms, shout out. Love it. So for those of you that spend $5 a day, okay, that's $150 a month. Okay, let's look at if we just increase the rents $150 a month. So if it went from $1,000 to $1,150, okay? Now, before we do that, let's just take a look at the NOI of this property, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna compare these two side by side, okay? We have $70,000 of NOI. We're just gonna duplicate everything on the other side. You guys with me so far? Okay, all right, so we're gonna go over here, type in 5, okay? We're gonna go in here, and we're just gonna make everything identical. 264. Okay, 3,200, 4,000. And then we're gonna go to 8%, boom, and that's gonna be 8246. Whoops. Let's see. 6. Okay, cool. Then we got 1,200. What I'm doing is I'm making both of these columns look identical. What that allow me to do is it'll allow me to show you before and after the rent increase. Okay, very, very important. So we're gonna type in 1,200 here. Okay, and what I want you guys to understand is how important this number is. Okay, so this sheet is let's see, 32,510. Okay, and then we got this is going to be 70,565. Boom. Okay, so now what I want you guys to understand here is what. So if you now write this number down: $70,565. $70,565. Okay, and then let's look at what this building. Let's just do a very, very simple. This building at a 7 cap. So let's just go down to like 1.2 million. Let's see what that looks like. Oopsie, not 120,000. 1, 2. There we go. It's about a 6 cap. Okay, cool. So at 1.2 million, 1.2. This is a 5.88 cap. Okay, you guys with me so far? So what we're going to do is for what some people spend in Starbucks a day, $5 a day, 30 days a month, $150, we're going to increase the rents. Very, very small tax. Okay, so 1,150. Okay, we're going to go to the 1 bedroom is going to be 1,650. Okay, the 2,000 to 2,150. Okay, the 1,400 is going to go to 1,550. Okay, and then the 1,350 is going to go to 1,500. And then the 2,800 is going to go to 2,950. Okay, guys, you with me so far? Now, you are going to see in a second what the difference is that $150 for $5 a day, the impact that it has. Okay, very, very important for you to understand, because when it all totals up, okay, so let's go ahead and total all this up here. Sum this bad boy up. Okay, boom. Let's see, make sure we got this. Okay, cool. Okay, now it's 131,000. Oopsie. All right. The point we're getting to, folks, okay, is that you now have your NOI has increased by 6 units. Okay, so we're going to do really quick math. 6 units, $150 a month, right? So that's 6 times 150 is what? $900 a month over the course of a year. What's $900? Let's see. So if it's $900 a year times 12 months, we all agree that that's an increase of $10,800. Doesn't seem like a lot, but let's do this, right? Let's increase the NOI by $10,800 and see what effect it has on the cap rate and the value. You guys with me? Okay. So remember, we had $70,565 and at 1.2 million, and it was a 5.88 cap. Okay. What we're going to have here is this is going to equal 10,800. Okay. Plus 70,565. Okay. Put that together and you see it's $81,000. Well, look what happened here, folks. At 1.2, that went from a 5.88 cap to a 6.78 cap. Now, what happens if the buyer is willing to buy a 5.88 cap? Okay, let's see. Remember, folks, Cap rates and value are like a seesaw. Value goes down, cap rates go up. Cap rate goes down, value goes up. Watch this. This is very important. This is worth the price of admission today, guys. Okay. What do you think we need to do to make the cap rate go down? We got to jack the price up. So let's go up to 1250. Let's see. Oh, we just dropped down a little bit, not enough. Let's go to 1,000,003. Oh, we're still getting there. Still not there though. Okay, 1,000,003. We're going to go to 1,325. Right? Okay, we're still not there. The cap rate's continuing to go down. So the value's got to keep going up until we get to 5.88%. So we're going to go to 1,350. Okay, we're getting there, but we're still not close. Okay, we're going to go to 1,365. Okay, still not there yet. 1,375. Okay, there we go. We're getting close. Still not there. We're going to continue to raise the price until we get to 5.88. Okay, all right, boom. That's pretty close. Let's raise it another $2,000. 1,382. Boom, close enough. Okay, folks. So look at what we did, folks. Okay, what we did is we increased the rent for each unit $150. $5 a day. But look at what the difference it made. It increased from 1,000,002 to 1,382. Okay. So let's say you're working with an investor, right? And the investor says, well, I don't know. I don't want to spend that much money. This is when you pull out the Starbucks investor, the Starbucks conversation. Charlie, you like coffee, right? Yeah, I like coffee. Okay, cool. What's your favorite coffee? Oh, I like, my iced caramel, pumpkin, frappuccino, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. What's that, about $5 a day? Yeah. Let's just say we increased each of the tenants $5 a day, right? $5 a day. It's $150 per unit. What we just found for Charlie, look at this, guys. Okay, we went from 1,382. We subtract out 1, 2. Okay, this is equal to this minus this. Guys, for $5 a day per tenant, we just increased the value of the property $182,000. Is that a mind blower for anybody? Does that type of 182 in the chat if that's eye-opening how small increases in rents can make for huge increases of value, guys. Have you guys ever had a landlord and you're like, gosh, this guy is cheap. He charges me for everything. It's $3 for this and $5 for that and $30 for that and blah, 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 pet fee and license fee. Guess what, folks? This is what they're doing. And if you know the magic of this, you can also have these conversations with your clients. Guys, very, very small percentage of brokers know this stuff and can articulate it. Folks, this is what we teach. I can show you how to extract $182,000 in value in a building for $5 a day on a 6-unit building. Imagine if it was a 60-unit building, guys. Multiply times 10. That's $1,000,003 in increased value. Does that make sense, folks? Type 1 in the chat if that's like, these are real numbers, guys. And this is how we earn our fee. People say, commercial real estate agents, you make a lot of money. Yes. You know why? Because we can show folks where they can extract major upsides of value. Not many brokers know how to do this stuff. Not many brokers know how to articulate this stuff. Our students know how to do this stuff. Does that make sense, guys? This is major. These are the conversations that will move the needle for you being able to sell it to this buyer and you able to not sell it to the buyer. Right? If they can't see it, they're just going to, remember, like I said before, value is in the eye of the investor, just like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if you're able to articulate these conversations effectively, guess what, folks? You'll get them to pay another $182,000 for that building if they can believe that you can increase the rents $150 a month. With me, folks? Okay. That is what we're trying to show you. This is what we're trying to articulate, that small movements in rental increases can make big movements in value. You got a 5.89 cap, it's still, this is a little bit low, for today, but for today's example, I think it drives home a point. You guys with me? Any questions here? I saw somebody had a question between, it was between recurring and regular expenses. No, Johanna, what that is it's regular and recurring, right? So it's monthly, it's quarterly, it's annual, it's, biweekly, whatever that is, so operating expenses are regular and recurring, right? You pay taxes quarterly, you pay your light bill monthly, you pay whatever, on a regular and recurring basis, right? JBS, how do we come up to an ideal cap rate? That's going to be based in part on your local lending rate. So it's going to vary from market to market to market. And it's also going to vary on the property and a lot of other factors. But we can get into cap rates on a different conversation. Folks, what I wanted to articulate to you guys today was how important the conversations, number one, the conversations you have with sellers and buyers can have a major impact on your ability to sell properties. If you're able to show with numbers, because remember, folks, brokers might tell stories, but the numbers will never, ever lie. You can show someone this mathematical example, they're going to be willing to spend $182,000 more on a $1.2 million property. That's a big movement of the needle, folks, right? That's almost like what is that? Like 15% or so increase. That's major. That's a skill, guys. And that's a skill that we teach. When you know the science, it's just math. It's just addition and subtraction, right? But when you know this, it's one thing to know it. It's another thing to own it. You guys type knowing and owning in the chat, right? Because for those of you that own this stuff, that know it, and it just comes out, you'll be able to have these conversations just off the top of your head because you understand this stuff inside out. So for those of you that want to learn this more, okay, I'm going through an entire presentation tomorrow. I think it's 1 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, it's going to 1 p.m. Eastern. For those of you that are interested in learning how other students have taken this stuff, adapted it, and made serious money, right? Because they're able to have these conversations with people. It's the difference between getting a buyer to buy your property and not. And guys, type in the chat, what would a commission be on a $1.3 million property? What would that be? Type it in the chat. What's 0.03 times $1.3 million? Go ahead. Hi, Missy. Good to see you. Missy, I know you're fast on the draw. What's 1.3 times 0.03? Let's see how quick you are on your math skills. There, exactly. Right. Yep. $39,000. Guys, this is a $39,000 conversation. That's what it's worth to a broker to know this information. That's for one sale, to be able to have the sale, the listing that sale work or not work. Does this make sense, guys? This is the difference. A lot of times it's a series of small steps. It's not like, people aren't just going to jump, into your inbox. Sometimes you need to be able to talk to an investor and see what they're looking for, see what they're willing to spend, and be able to articulate the value of the property and allow them to see it so that you can have an effective conversation and they're willing to make an offer somewhat closer to the sales price, the asking price. Make sense, guys? Hope you guys got at least one thing that you can take from this, right? I see Ethan's nodding. Guys, my goal for you is for you to learn things here and implement them. And next week, come back and learn and implement. And the more you implement, the more you're able to use this in your business, the more you're able to get what you're looking for, in terms of getting those listings sold that have been sitting. Because a lot of people talk to me that the market's been shifting, that buyer's a little bit more scared, the interest rates have been a little wonky. The thing that fixes everything is price. So, folks, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you this week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.